That did not happen, with no single word from the government on the status of the talks. Dealing a blow to the meeting was the withdrawal of ODM chief Raila Odinga on Sunday.
With the help of
The president, on the other hand, opted to launch projects in Nakuru County.
Thank you very much.
Last week, the president and Raila Odinga agreed on a consultative meeting that will encompass the youths and other stakeholders, totaling to 150. The names were to be submitted by last week on Friday to pave way for Monday's meeting.
We want it to be a really very engaging conversation on the way forward, that we deal with fundamental issues that are affecting our society today.
Following the announcement, Odinga was pressured by supporters and his core principles to publicly denounce the calls for dialogue. He heeded to the call, leaving the president exposed.
Mwaka hii wameua sasa karibu zaidi ya 100. Mtu kama hawa mikono yao imejaa damu. Mikono yao imejaa damu. Hatuwezi kuongea na hawa watu. Hayo mimi nasema no dialogue. No dialogue. No dialogue.
Azimio had scheduled a meeting on Monday, which was later postponed as differences of opinion within the coalition escalate owing to the calls for dialogue. Another one, which had been scheduled for Saturday, failed to kick off, and on Tuesday, the party, ODM, will meet its legislators through a parliamentary group meeting to chart the murky waters ahead and come up with a solid decision regarding the dialogue.
What dialogue is needed to get police officers whose faces have been in the media shooting wantonly, killing people? What dialogue is needed for them to go home? And what dialogue is needed on corruption? What dialogue is needed for the clear message to William Ruto and his regime that they must exit the stage? I think this particular Gen Z demonstrations were not by us. We tried as Azimio. We failed. Through the usual methods. Come with dialogue, before you know it, co-option and compromise. Let us allow our children space to bring accountability to this country.
Odinga is in a dilemma on whether ODM should be part of government or not. Already, if indications from the party's Secretary General Edwin Sifuna are anything to go by, then the party might be softening its stand and ready to join the government.
As a party, ODM has never shied away from stepping up and having difficult conversations whenever the destiny of our nation is at stake. Indeed, it is said that it is in times of crisis that leadership emerges. The emerging issues and the urgent need to address them is not about rescuing the Kenya Kwanza regime or indeed William Ruto. The nation is bigger than and distinct from any one of us.
Odinga's quagmire is further exacerbated by his quest to be the chair of African Union, a position that must have the government's backing, and his fears are that he cannot go against the government or criticize lest he loses its support. The Gen Zs are also throwing a warning to Odinga not to make any attempts to sanitize President Ruto's government from its tribulations. The Gen Zs have remained adamant that they don't have a leader and that their only interest is action and accountability. All eyes are now on ODM legislators as to whether they will ratify the calls for dialogue and what they will ask President Ruto in exchange for their support, given that the president has shown interest in forming a government of national unity. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, the supplementary budget one of financial year 2024-2025 is only 156.39 billion Kenyan shillings and not 177 billion as President William Ruto pledged when slashing the budget after the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, which now means more borrowing. Concerns have also emerged as to why the development budget has received the steepest cut of 122 billion, while recurrent expenditure only witnessed 34 billion in cuts. Joel Chacha now breaks what the Budget and Appropriations Committee is contending with before tabling a report on the 24th of July in Parliament for consideration.
Following demonstrations by the Gen Z to withdraw the Finance Bill 2024, President William Ruto has since announced budget cuts to cover the deficit.
After extensive consultations, struck a middle ground, and we will be proposing to the National Assembly a budget cut of not the entire 346, but a budget cut of 177 billion, and borrowing the difference.
However, Ruto's words have not been reflected in the supplementary budget 1 of the current fiscal year, as the government will only cut by 156.39 billion Kenya shillings. This, however, constitutes of 122.35 billion slashed from the development budget, while the recurrent has only been slashed by 34 billion. Counties are, however, on the brink of losing up to 20.6 billion as the equitable share could drop down to 379.5 billion, an amount lesser than the 385 billion they were located in the last financial year.
When we introduced devolution, the intention of the drafters of the 2010 Constitution wanted to devolve services. But then we have seen time and time again that we actually devolved corruption instead.
The Budget Committee of the National Assembly is set to begin reviewing the budget cuts by engaging the public, chairs of respective parliamentary committees, ahead of submission of a report on 24th this month, a day after Parliament resumes its sittings. The Ndindi Nyoro-led committee will ratify the shelving of all development spending initially allocated to the Executive Office of the President and the Office of the Deputy President. The vote assigned to the Office of the First Lady has been shelved, with the initial allocation of 696 million being expunged from the 2024-2025 expenditure. Also, the budget of the Office of the Spouse to the Deputy President, initially allocated 557 million, has been expunged from the current fiscal year expenditure. The total budget for the President, which includes the Office of the President, Deputy President, Prime CS, and State House, will now be 11.3 billion, after 9.35 billion slash equivalent to 45.6%.
They are Prime CS. And you know, some things are issues of facts. That yes, it is true, that office is not provided for under the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which I have here. And I would be lying to the public or misleading them if I say that it is provided for here. And what I would urge the President, because he has shown that he's listening to the Kenyan people, so let us have a conversation, a genuine conversation, on why we still have some of these offices in place, despite the fact that they are not anchored in the Constitution.
In sectoral allocations that are likely to elicit reactions, the education budget, including TSC, will be slashed by 36.03 billion to be 623.12 billion, equivalent to 5.47%. Health budget will get a cut of 12.79 billion to stand at 118.24 billion, equivalent to 9.76%.
And even as much as, yes, we're having budget cuts, yes, we understand that whatever resources we have now may not be, you know, enough for everything, and there have to be budget cuts in certain areas. But I don't think healthcare should be a sector that we should even play with. We should be looking at seeing how do we improve on education and healthcare.
Agriculture budget will suffer 7.71 billion cut, which is 11.63 to receive an allocation of 68.84 billion. The energy, petroleum and mining budget is set for a 19.69 billion cut, getting an allocation of 82.93 billion. The entire development budget for internal security and national administration has also been shelved, even as the roads, transport, shipping and maritime sector is earmarked for an 18.43 billion cut. The defense and internal security will also get a 4.16% cut to receive 200.28 billion in the current financial year. The government could, however, be forced to borrow more if the above-mentioned figures will not be affected, as they are plunging the country further into the crisis. Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
The High Court has revoked the appointment of Anthony Mwaura as the chairman of the Kenya Revenue Authority Board, following a petition that was filed by Nakuru-based Sergeant Dr. Gikenyi. In his ruling, Justice Francis Gikonyo says the appointment of Mwaura in November 2022 was unconstitutional and national violated integrity values, since he was facing criminal charges, including corruption and economic crimes. Timothy Simo with that report.
Mwaura's appointment as the chairman of the Kenya Revenue Authority has been quashed by the High Court.
We are going to change KRA, and it will be a very welcoming body.
Precisely, his appointment by President William Ruto in 2022 was illegal and unconstitutional. Justice Francis Gikonyo in his verdict says Mwaura's appointment as KRA chair when facing charges of corruption and economic crimes was a violation of national values and integrity ethos.
You are really supporting us, and the government is fully behind.
According to the judge, the requirement of holding public office is public trust, and for the reason that Mwaura was facing corruption and economic crimes charges yet to be determined, he doesn't merit public trust to serve Kenyans. At the same time, the judge dismissed Mwaura's argument that nothing prevented his appointment at that time. The petitioner, Dr. Benjamin Gikenyi, had told the court that Mwaura's appointment was inconsistent with the law on integrity and governance values. The court agreed. In April this year, the Orange Democratic Movement ODM protested the appointment of Mwaura to head United Democratic Alliance National Elections Board. In its statement, the Raila Odinga-led party argued that Mwaura's involvement in politics while holding a public office was contrary to the Ethics and Integrity Act. They demanded Mwaura and Kenya Power chairperson Joy Midivo to relinquish public offices. Timothy Simwa, K24 TV.
Well, that report by Timothy Seymour brings us to another break right here on K24 Evening Edition. We still have more lined up for you on the other side of that break. Stick around for that.
Have you watched K24? We would love to hear from you. Send us your feedback on what you like and what you don't like and why. You can use any platform to reach us. We can be reached on Facebook, SMS, Twitter and WhatsApp.
People come to me and they say they get discomfort when they